What is up, y'all? So today I am going to be making a vegan pizza with a whole wheat crust with you guys for Amanda's yoga group class thing. I just recently went vegan. I did it because of health issues. I was diagnosed with diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and I went vegan in like 10 days. All of that stuff went away. So it was the best diet for me. So pizza, it's tomato season. Let's make some pizza. So we're gonna start with some whole wheat flour. This is 3 cups of whole wheat flour, or 414 grams, or just over 14 ounces of whole wheat flour. I like to make mine a little bit more interesting. I like to cut some garlic and put it in the crust because gives it a little bit more flavor. So I'm gonna cut up a little bit of garlic here that I got from the grocery store, but I do have my own garden, and some of these vegetables that I'm going to put into the pizza today are going to be stuff that I've grown in my garden. So just smash the garlic. I guess I'll just do like 1 piece because don't need too much more. But if you like garlic, and garlic has properties that reverse the growth of cancerous cells, put a ton more garlic in there. Fuck it, am I right? Do what you like. Dice it up here. The key to cooking well is like a really good sharp knife. Like literally, if you have a sharp knife and a cutting board, you can cook anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that right in there, right in with the dry flour, because no big deal. All right, the other thing that you're gonna want to do is you need a cup of water, or 8 ounces of water, and some dry active yeast, baby. Get some yeast there. So you need about 2 teaspoons of that. I bake a ton, so I just bought 2 pounds of yeast so that I always have it on hand. But you could buy these in individual packages and just use them in the individual package. So the water that you use for your yeast, you're going to want it to be lukewarm. I mean, even a little bit cooler than lukewarm, like 70 degrees, but don't stress yourself out trying to use a thermometer to temp it or anything. That's totally unnecessary. Just make sure it's lukewarm, that it doesn't burn your hand, because if it's really, really hot, it's going to kill your yeast, and it won't bloom, which is essentially what it's doing right now. So this is my flour with the garlic. It's going to get all mixed up, so it doesn't really matter. Then you take this, make a little well in your garlic, or sorry, in your flour, make a little well in your flour, and then just dump it right in. My neighbors are literally playing Michael Jackson right now, and I fucking love it. Wooden spoon, which you don't totally need in your kitchen. You could use your hands, but I'm using a wooden spoon here. Just stir it until it gets a little thick. I'll show you as I go. So here's what I got so far. At this point, I'm going to add some salt. The reason I waited a little bit to add salt is because I didn't want to kill the yeast. But I recommend Diamond kosher salt, and you want about a teaspoon. If you've ever heard any real cook talk about salt, one of the things they talk about, and I'm just mixing this here with my hand, is salting as you go while you're cooking. So like every part of a dish needs to be salted. All that is to say that you should just be salting as you go, as you cook. Every part of your meal should get salt. I know it's not great for blood pressure and things of that nature. So this is what my dough looks like now. I've rolled it out with my hands a little bit out onto the counter, and I'm going to try and get out all these little extra pieces here because I want to reuse this to actually let my dough rise in. Yeah, so a little bit there, and now we essentially just knead it. That's K-N-E-A-D, not N-E-E-D, although I do knead it. Anyway, so just knead it. try and get it to come together. This seems to be doing a really good job coming together, right? But then I've got all of this shit right here that is not. A lot of extra flour there. Some parts that will probably like do well, but look at all this. That's a lot of excess and unnecessary. So usually what I do with that is I put a little well in the flour again, and then I knead. And the reason I do it like that is because you can add more water, and I might eventually have to add more water, but you don't want to add more water too soon. This recipe makes two large pizzas or 4 personal sized pizzas. So yeah, don't add too much fucking flour and water. Don't add too much water because it gets out of control. And this is actually, like, I'm doing this, it's still, ooh, little piece of garlic right there. Yum. It's still like really sticky. So I am going to knead. I'm going to keep kneading. I'm going to keep adding all this flour that didn't get any water in it when I put it into the bowl. And I'm going to hope that some of this dry flour absorbs some of this wetness from the dough. Okay, so this, I didn't add any extra water to it, and it's still kind of moist and wet. So I am going to add a little bit more flour to it. And usually with something like this, you only want to add like a teaspoon or a tablespoon at a time. I'm going to do about a teaspoon because I really don't think I need that much. And I just like to like sprinkle it on top. Fill it up, whole wheat. You could also make this with all-purpose flour. I have made it before with like 3/4 all-purpose flour and 1/4 semolina flour, which made a really solid thin crust pizza. Loved it. But I'm just trying to be a little healthier and get some more fiber in my diet, some more whole grains, and this was maybe the best flour for those purposes. Now I'm just like trying to get all the flour that I've put on the thing on the counter up now. So this I think actually looks pretty good. I love it. I got my salt in there, I got my yeast in there, I got my water, and I got my garlic. So here you go. This is what it should look like. It should kind of like a little indent, but it like pops back a little bit when you do that. So like something like this. And it's pretty hard to over knead this. So if you're not sure, just keep kneading a little bit until it's nice and smooth. Which is not to say that any bread can't be overworked. It totally can. Cakes especially can be overworked. Cookies can be overworked. I learned that the hard way every single time at my last job when I really got into baking. It's easy to overwork things. But this pizza dough, not so much. Also, your arms will probably get tired before you actually overwork it. So I'm going to take this guy right in the bowl. You could oil this bowl if you want to so it doesn't stick. I don't use oil anymore in my cooking, or I try my best not to. I'm going to use a little bit of oil today and the sauce. Now you take this guy, you cover it with a tea towel, very important, so that it doesn't dry out, and just sit it in a warm place, which happens to be my entire fucking house right now because it's hot as hell. I'm just going to sit on the table over here. Dutch oven. Here we go. I'm going to turn the heat on, and I'm going to put a little water in mine. Got a half an onion here. Just take the skin off. Compost. Skin. Just going to slice it. Just going to slice it. So here, we slice it, and I'm not too worried about what it looks like at this point because I think I'm going to blend everything together so I don't have chunks of carrot, chunks of onion in my sauce. And chunks of garlic we'll eventually put in. We want it to not be too thick when it drops in there. I want to get a little bit of surface area so I have a little bit more onion that's getting some flavor into my water that I'm ultimately going to cook out, but you know, so it doesn't burn. All right, so I got that in there, and another wooden spoon. I have like 50 of these. Like I said, I recommend them. Just gonna stir it. Stir it, stir it, stir it. All right, now I'm gonna do my carrot. Just cut off the ends here, drop the ends in the compost. Take this, boop, boop, boop. Slice it right into there. And you really don't have to peel off the outside of the carrot because it's got a ton of nutrients in it, right? The skin is where a lot of the nutrients are and a lot of the vegetables that we eat. But I am going to slice it because I don't feel like having to wash it as thoroughly as this carrot needs to be washed. So cut it in half. I'm going to brunoise these just for some knife practice because I could use it. So I'm going to brunoise these so you can get some, I can get some practice. So you cut it about the size of what you want a julienne to be, which is, I believe, 5 to 7 centimeters. 5 to 7 centimeters. And you cut off about 1 centimeter chunks here. Then again, you essentially julienne them first, right? So I'm julienning them here. And while speed is interesting and looks fucking cool, if you can't do it fast and do it right, you can't do it fast. If you can't do it fast and do it right, you can't do it fast. Now look at these beautiful julienne carrot sticks. I love it. Some of them could use some work. Like in culinary school, I definitely would have gotten marks off on that. But that would have gotten me perfect marks there. And then since I said I was going to brunoise them, I'm just going to cut them into 1 by 1 centimeter cubes. My tomatoes, a lot of them are ugly tomatoes. Some of them I grew in my garden, which is pretty dope. Some of them my friends grew in their gardens, and some of them I got at a farmer's market this weekend because I was just driving by and excited about it. So a lot of people will tell you that the best tomato sauce is made with Roma tomatoes or plum tomatoes, or here in Jersey there's a tomato called Jersey tomato that is great. It's solid. I like a variety of tomatoes because it just gives your sauce like a different, like deeper flavor. I have one tomato that I'm gonna rinse, but I'm not gonna really wash the rest of these because they grew in my garden, or they grew in my friend's garden, or they grew from like farms that I know where they came from because I got them at the farmer's market. And I know that they're organic, and I know that they don't have any shit pesticides on them. So I'm just gonna rinse this one off because it's got dirt on it. Typically, when you're making a pasta sauce, you would take the skin off of it. And you do that for really good reason, because it makes it a smoother sauce and it's more consistent. You also would take the guts out, which is like the seeds and all that gunk that the seeds live in. And you do that because it makes a nice consistent sauce that is smooth and rich and good. But when you get rid of all that stuff, you get rid of a lot of the flavor and you get rid of most of the nutrients. So I always, unless I'm cooking at a fancy French restaurant, which hasn't been for a while because of the pandemic, or unless I am cooking for somebody that I really want to impress, I don't take off the skins of my tomatoes and I don't take the seeds out. So you can if you want to, but I recommend that you not, because like I said, a lot of the nutrients are in the skin. Just like little cubes. It's really nice when you have a knife like this, because the knife does all of the work for you. You don't have to worry about fucking trying to make sure it gets through the skin. And you can cut them as big or as small as you want, because remember I said we're going to blend this. So So I am currently boiling the water. There's a lot of water in tomatoes. A lot of water in tomatoes. So I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to blend it with a stick blender or an immersion blender, and then I'll show you what it looks like again. And then I'm just going to continue boiling it until it's kind of at the amount of water that I want in it. And then I'm going to add salt, and I'm going to add balsamic vinegar. I don't want to do that now because I don't want to add too much or too little and then just have to do it again. Because I'm going to boil all the water out, and usually you don't add too little. Usually you add too much. So let me show it to you what it looks like right now. I'm going to blend it. I'm going to show it to you what it looks like then. And then I'm going to just let it simmer until as much of the water is out of it as I want. So here is my beautiful sauce. Look at that. Look at that. So much water though. You don't really think of how much water is actually in these sauces, but it's actually in these tomatoes and fruit in general. But I mean, fruit is mostly water, as is the planet, as is our bodies, which I would say is a good indication that we should be eating it. Fruit and vegetables. Tomatoes are technically fruit, but you know what I mean. Fruit and vegetables are mostly water. So is the planet, and so are our bodies. So we should probably be eating a ton more of that stuff because it's made up of what we are made of. I'm not a hippie, guys, I swear. I just, try and make some of these connections, or I assume that some of these things are connected. Maybe they're not. Okay, so this is my sauce. Ooh, it's hot. So the more you blend it, the less liquid it will be, which is like actually not true, right? Like the amount of liquid in there is the amount of liquid in there, because I suspect that our dough has risen, much like our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the point that we can use it. So this is the amount of sauce I was left with. It's not very much, but I think it's going to be more than enough for a personal pizza. I'm just going to load it up with sauce. But I'm going to cook a lot more of this water out. Okay, so I think I've got it where I want it to be. You can see there's still some liquid in there. So it's not a paste just yet, but it's on its way to being a paste. And I don't want it to be a paste, but also I am going to add some balsamic vinegar to it and some salt to give it a little bit more acid. I might even add a little bit of sugar to it because I tasted it a little thingy. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll see. This is the last little bit of salt I have. Thank goodness I have it because it's the last. Well, I'm going to need a teeny bit of salt for the veg, but like a quarter of a teaspoon because it's got so little water in it. It's really going to like taste like salt. Okay, salt. And like I said, I'm gonna put a little sugar. I put carrots in it for a little bit of sweetness before, and it just didn't retain all of that, which is like no big deal. You can add sugar to things. I usually prefer to add brown sugar, but I don't have brown sugar because I used it all a couple days ago making hot pepper jam. It was a whole thing. I'm gonna put just a teaspoon's amount in it, maybe even less, half a teaspoon. Stir. I can hear my puppy in the background moving around. She's trying to cool off. It's hot. It's stirred. Now I taste. I think it's perfect. I'm not going to put balsamic vinegar in it. Usually I do that if I've put too much sweet in it, and this time I didn't. I nailed it. I'm going to preheat my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, not Celsius. Don't do 400 degrees Celsius. That's a terrible idea. I have no idea what 400 degrees Celsius is and what 400 degrees Fahrenheit is in Celsius. So I'm going to have to edit that in later. So I'm gonna get a pan out and I'm gonna put a piece of parchment on it. And look at this beautiful, beautiful dough. It really it is risen. It is risen indeed. Looks good though, right? So just take that right out of there. You can roll it right out onto your surface here. Okay, then rolling pin, pastry scraper. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a wine bottle. I know you have a wine bottle. If you don't have a pastry scraper, you could use the back of your knife. So, like I said before, this pizza, this dough makes enough for 2 large pizzas or 4 personal size pizza. So for 2 large pizzas, you cut it in half. This is my technique to get the perfectly round pizza. So what you want to do is you want it to be a perfect ball when you start, right? Like you want it to be a circle so that when you roll it out, it's a circle. So the way to make that happen is you tuck it in under the bottom like this. Got a little ball here. And then I sit it just like that. And I press it down. And it's kind of a perfect round disc at this point. See, it's like a circle here. So then I take my rolling pin. This might be where you need a little bit of flour. I'm going to try my best not to add flour because it's just messy and I hate dealing with it. Just roll it out. But when you're rolling it out, to ensure that it stays round and it doesn't become an oval, I turn it. And I turn it like a bunch of different directions. You don't have to turn it. You can do this, but it's easier to, for me personally, it is easier to get the correct weight on the whole thing if I turn it and do this. You could even roll all the way to the edges and see what I fucked it up by doing that, but no big deal. I'm just going to turn it and roll it again. Okay. So this is what I've got so far. I could see some of my garlic in it. I don't know if you can see it, like there's a little piece right there. So this is what I've got so far. Put the rolling pin aside. You only want to get it out about that far. And then on your parchment, or you can use like aluminum foil with oil with like Pam cooking spray spread on it. But why, if you could just use parchment and nothing sticks to parchment? So then I just put it on my parchment here and I push it out to the size I want it to be. So the last thing I'm going to do before I put this in the oven that is preheated to 400 Fahrenheit, I will let you know what it is in Celsius, is I'm going to poke holes in it so that the air bubbles don't come into it and you get these big air bubbles. Do it with a fork. I do it in a circular motion. You can do it however you want. Just try and hit the whole pizza and make sure that you do it all the way through the pizza. You want to like touch the bottom of the pan. So I am going to cook my veg first with a little bit of water, so much water, and then I'm going to toss it in the oven with on top of the pizza. But first we pre-cook our crust in the oven. No longer than like 10 minutes, but I would say maybe even 7 minutes. And cooking tip, always use a timer, because I promise it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but at some point you are going to put something in the oven or on the stove and you're going to walk away from it. And you're going to forget you're cooking and you're going to burn it. And it's a bummer. Those beeps were my 7-minute timer. Took my crust out of the oven. It practically looks the same, but look, I could do that now. And it still needs to be cooked a little bit more, so. Okay, so now I'm making my veg for this pizza. I cut up some onion, I sliced it up, and I'm just cooking it in a little bit of water. Like I said before, I'm cooking it right now so that it doesn't need to be cooked as much when it goes into the oven, the greases and whatever. I got a bunch of different kinds of peppers. So I have jalapeno peppers. I have, I think, a cayenne pepper, and not habanero. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot what they're called. I'm going to find out what they're called, and I'm going to put it in the video. And then I have just a sweet, what is meant to be actually an orange pepper, but I picked it before it started to turn. But it's getting there, actually. See, it's starting to turn orange. So I have a lot of hot peppers, and because I have a lot of hot peppers, I'm going to wear gloves to do this, because it's just a real bummer when you cut hot peppers and that stuff lingers on your hands for like a day. So I will wash my hands after this. I will take a shower after this. I will wash my hair tonight after this, and I will still rub my eyes and it'll burn my eyes. So I highly recommend, if you're dealing with hot peppers, especially these two, jalapeno, not as bad, but especially these, that you wear gloves. Because I am cooking, I'm doing this with spicy peppers. I'm gonna take the ribs and the seeds out, because that is the hottest part of the pepper. A lot of the heat is in the seeds, not all of the heat, but a lot of the heat is in the seeds. I cook these peppers, or I pick these peppers a little prematurely. All these peppers came out of my garden, so I picked them a little bit prematurely, so that I could put them on this pizza today specifically. But you can, they're already like burning my throat. You can let them sit, and you can let them get a little bit bigger. Just no harm in that. I actually wonder if they're a little spicier because they're smaller, because the heat is in like a smaller amount of space. I don't know, but I can Google that, because it's 2020 and all this information is Googleable. One of these guys, and I'm just gonna take off this thing right here. When you're cleaning mushrooms, this is gonna be weird. You can put them in water, but the problem with that is, I'm just gonna dice these while I'm talking. The problem with putting them in water is that you essentially are adding more water. Mushrooms are like sponges. They just absorb the shit out of liquids. At this point, my onions are nice and like sweated, and I'm mostly just trying to cook all the liquid out of this pan so that it doesn't have a ton of liquid when I put it on top of my pizza here. Oh, salt. Remember how I said you have to salt at every stage of your prep? We can get rid of these now. Thank goodness. So, salt. You don't need a ton of salt for your veg, but you do want your vegetables to have salt on them. Here are my veg. I've cooked all the liquid out of it. Here is my sauce. Cooked as much of the liquid out of it as I want. Here's my dough. I'm gonna start topping everything now. Okay, so I've assembled my pizza. Now I'm gonna put it back in the oven. Don't forget what I said about a timer. It really only needs about 5 minutes. Like, it's because everything on it's already cooked, right? I'm just trying to finish off the crust. Okay, pizza's done. It's beautiful. Ta-da! There's the pizza. It's beautiful. Look at that. Look at this beauty. So now you just cut it into 6 pieces, 8 pieces, 4 pieces, however you like your personal pan pizza, and you eat it. Get this angle. Look at that. That is a beautiful pizza. So pretty. So that is our plant-based meal for the week, the month, I don't know. But yeah, enjoy it. I hope you really like it. If you don't like it, let me know. If you do like it, let me know. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or email me, or slide into my DMs on Instagram, and let me know if you like the pizza. Have an awesome day, and I hope this thing makes you feel great after the yoga that you just did with Amanda. Peace.